Now,
it's time! What's kicking, everybody? We are back for another episode of Pickin' Fights. I'm Keith, joined as always by my friend Tom. Tom, how are you, sir?
I was recently watching one of our older videos. I think it was our video from last week or 2 weeks ago. And I commented on, maybe I should clean up this room before we start. And just by looking at my screen here, it looks like I did the exact opposite. Got rid of the bag, added some, clothes on the ground and an extra TV and like part of a curtain rod. So who knows? Maybe next time I'll be coming live from the dump. But either way, pumped to talk about some UFC. We're getting back in the throes of it. Regular UFC cards every weekend here. Before we get into that, how you doing, Keith?
I'm doing swell. Clearly, you haven't seen my bedroom. The floor is littered with clothes. It looks way worse than that. That's actually what I would consider to be a clean room.
We're trending in the wrong direction. That was the problem.
Yeah. I have to do a little cleaning tonight now that we're talking about it. But I am excited for this card. This is a fight night card, but it's I believe it's in Abu Dhabi, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. It's all that oil money paying for fights. If you remember, UFC at the Sphere was originally like UFC Sphere, and then it became UFC Noche, and then it became UFC Riyadh Nights Noche Mexican Independence. And you come to find out, like, Riyadh Nights is the Riyadh oil money coming in to pay for a ton of UFC stuff, and they certainly needed help. The Sphere was an expensive venue, and the give back is, okay, now you're going to give us Israel Adesanya and Sharabullet Magomedov as the co-main event in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, and that's what we have this week. But I am stoked for this card. What time does this start Eastern time?
9 a.m. Morning card.
Yeah, morning card. I'll take it, though. We don't really have Saturday morning, afternoon sports at the moment. Now that college football is over, so it is refreshing. I'm a big fan of the afternoon cards, especially I used to love those ABC cards that they would do.
Yeah.
On ABC. One of the main events was like Kevin Holland versus Marvin Vettori. Like, those were fun days, like immediately post pandemic. And so it is nice to have these Saturday afternoon cards. No college football, then you can go out afterwards and you're not obligated to watch the fights on your phone, you know, so you have something to do. And not saying you, but a lot of our friends out there have, girlfriends, wives that drag them along to places on Saturdays. Like, hey, we're going to go, we're going to go to this store. We're going to do this. And then it's like, all right, hang on. While we're doing that, I'm going to be watching on my phone. Or like social obligations, sometimes you'll be out on a Saturday night out at the bar with your friends or out at a party, and it's like, hang on. Yuri Prohashka's fighting. I need to tune in. This is one of those cards that's not like that, being that it's at 9 a.m. So I'm pumped, and it's pretty stacked. So stacked that we're just going to jump right into the main card. We got 6 main card fights scheduled as of right now, and the very first one, it's pretty good. It's a good way to kick off the main card.
And before we kick that off, is it just me, or does this look of the poster kind of have a little bit of like a Grand Theft Auto feel to it? Like, I feel like looking at it, like if you don't look directly at it, you kind of catch it in the periphery of your vision. It's like, oh, the GTA cover is out. So I don't know if it's the writing or what it is, but hey, I don't know. Could be just me, but
I see that
main card. You see it, right?
It's like the filter on the photos, like that cartoony filter.
Exactly.
I've done enough talking for the last couple of minutes. I'll let you kick this one off. What do you think of this main card opener?
Yeah, so this is a fight between two guys relatively unknown to even some UFC kind of like diehards, I guess you could call ourselves. You got Conan Ofi, nicknamed Genghis, maybe Jengis, 4-1 over his last 5, plus 210, 31 years old, fighting out of Australia, the Turkish product. Kafan Ofi. He is, like I said, 4-1. Sorry, I'm dealing with some pop-up trouble here, but 4-1. We look at these 4. Rod Costa outside of the UFC, decision, submission, and lost his first UFC fight in the UFC. So stop me if you've heard that one before. 1-4 is identical record. Muhammad Naimov, Hillman. Looks like that maybe should be Hitman, but Hillman, whatever that means. Also 4-1 over the last 5. Knockout over Jalen Shute. Knockout over Jimmy Malarkey. We have a oh my God, these pop-ups are killing me. We have a decision over Nathaniel Wood, knockout by leg injury to Eric Silva, and then lost his most recent fight to Felipe Lima. I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm going to go with Muhammad Naimov. I like his aggression. I like his UFC experience. He is a little bit younger in this fight. He's going to be the bigger guy when it comes to stature, when it comes to size, and when it comes to reach here. If you look down at the votes on the Tapology voters, 92% going with Naimov, and I'm going to back them up here. I think minus 260 is probably a pretty fair line for him, going out there, potentially getting the finish. But I think Naimov is a good parlay piece. I think he's solid. I think the UFC wants to get this first fight off right, exciting finish. So I think Muhammad Naimov is the one to get this one done against Khan Ofi. What do you think about this one, Keith?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Muhammad Naimov. The finish over Jamie Malarkey really speaks to me. That was a big one. I mean, Jamie Malarkey is tough as nails. He's been in there with some dogs. He gets battered every now and then. And for Muhammad Naimov to put him down speaks to me. And then a decision win, unanimous over Nathaniel Wood, is huge. Last loss to Felipe Lima, forgivable. Felipe Lima came in, won his debut in the UFC over Naimov, and then had another win over Miles Johns, I believe, in his fight after that. So no joke from Felipe Lima. And then Khan Ofi, hardly even know how to say his name yet. I'm just not betting on him anyway, so I don't need to know how to say his name. I'm going with Muhammad Naimov. The record speaks for itself. The UFC experience, yeah, he's a little bit more tenured in the UFC at this point, so I like that pick. And then next up, we got Fares Zayam versus Mike Davis. And something I do just want to mention as well, this is a regional card. It is catered to Saudi Arabia and Riyadh in particular. And oftentimes what happens is when we have these local cards, especially like international cards, they kind of stack the deck in a boxing sense for the local fighters. We've talked about this plenty of times. Fares Zayam, he's French, but he does have like Arabic roots, by way of France, essentially. And Mike Davis is a relatively, just not as good American fighter. So, that bodes well for the Saudis. They want to see their guy go out and win. But for Fares Zayam, he's out of Kill Cliff FC, and trying to think, he's got a brother, right, who's his coach. Am I incorrect on that?
You're thinking of Fares Zahabi.
Oh, Zahabi, that's correct. But anyways,
Alman Zahabi.
Yes, but Fares Zayam, that last win over Matt Frevola really speaks to me. I mean, to put a guy like Matt Frevola, steamroller down the way that he did, there's power in those hands. The guy is a dog. When he smells blood, I believe it was the knee that put him out too. I mean, it's just, and Matt Frevola, yes, he can get put down, but he's a hard guy to put down. If you want to beat him up, you've got to really walk in the fire with him. And Fares Zayam did that in his last fight around, and I'll always respect him for that. So I'm going with Fares Zayam over Mike Davis. I think the home crowd is going to be favorable towards him, even though he's out of France and then in, fighting out of or training in Florida with Kill Cliff. It's just, I think a lot of things are going to be going for Fares Zayam this weekend. So that's who I'm going with at dog money plus 120. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, it's really interesting anytime that you see a minus 140 from Vegas, but 35% of the votes from Tapology with 2,200 picks there too. So it's not like it's an insignificant amount of people voting. Sometimes we like to fade the public. Sometimes we like to fade Vegas a little bit. I'd be really interested to figure out why exactly Mike Davis is getting such a favorable line from Vegas. Fusion XL, I have a friend who's down there and trains with some of those guys sometimes, and he hypes them up a lot whenever they're fighting. I haven't gotten a text about Mike Davis, which it's certainly not a slight against Mike Davis, but maybe it just doesn't mean there's as much excitement around him per se. I don't know. I'm just, speculating here. I do like Farasiam's game, especially being 27 years old. His last fight was a knockout over Matt Frivola, who's a guy who's been known to take some hits before. So maybe, he's a little bit older. I think he's 35, 36. So you can worry about maybe the chin cracking there, but still it means something that you've had enough power to be able to put a guy like that away who's known for taking damage, similar to the last fight that we are talking about with Jamie Malarkey. So I'm going to go with the plus money for Asiam. Like you said, a little bit of the native roots over to that area of the world. So I am going to go with Farasiam to get this one done, but surely not one of my most confident picks on the card for a variety of different reasons. I just think he's maybe a little bit more UFC tenured, and I like his most recent win. But again, submission over Natan Levy, decision over your guy, Slava Claus. He's got a decision over Mason Jones, which looks pretty good. Thomas Gifford knockout. So honestly, you know what? I'm gonna fade Tapology. Even though Vegas is on -140, that might be less exciting. I'm gonna say, you know what? Maybe Mike Davis goes in and gets the upset. But then again, he's got to travel across the world. You know what I mean? He's got to get there. Who knows when he's going to get there? It is obviously going to be indoors, so it's not like an NFL bet where you got to deal with new weather conditions. This one's tough. Give me Zia. But Ziam's coming from France. I guess it's not as far. Yeah, you know what? Plus money. There's reasons to bet on both guys here. I'm going to go with Ziam. He's a little bit closer and the plus money.
Yeah, and then just want to mention two other wins that really spoke to me from his record: Bernardo Sopage and Claudio Puelles. Like, those guys are not chumps. So, and Jai Herbert.
Jai Herbert as well.
Yeah, Black Country Bear. So, yeah, I mean, he's got some good wins on his record. Not that Mike Davis doesn't, but if you have any semblance of grappling and you're a good striker, you should beat Vyacheslav Borshev by a unanimous decision, and I believe his went to split Mike Davis. So, yeah, you should be. No. Am I wrong? One more over, I think. Oh, okay. Unanimous decision. Regardless, yeah, you should beat him if you're adept at grappling, because unfortunately, as nice as Vyacheslav is on his feet, and I'll never miss an opportunity to say that, he's just not a grappler. So, something to keep in mind. For Azayam can do it all. Next up, we got Said Nurmagomedov versus Vinicius Oliveira, Lock Dog. And I am going to be contrarian here and go with dog money, and I'm going to go with Vinicius Oliveira. There's another guy with great wins on his record: Bernardo Sopage, Ricky Simone in his most recent fight, and Ricky Simone is no joke as well. I mean, he was a guy that for a while was floating around in title contention. Obviously, Said Nurmagomedov is a Nurmagomedov. He's fighting in friendly home turf. He's got the Muslim background going into Saudi Arabia. So, like these Dagestani guys, they're all they're all tied into Saudi Arabia. They love them over there. I really like Vinicius Oliveira, though, especially after that flying knee knockout of Sopage. And the knockout that he had on the Contender Series, I think that he's got serious heat in his hands. He's very creative. He reminds me a lot of Charles Oliveira, to be completely honest. He's not from the same gym. Don't get it confused. He's not from Shoot the Box, but he is Brazilian. And the thing that makes me nervous is Sambo is proving to be very dangerous against Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Said Nurmagomedov does have good striking, but I'm going to go with Vinicius Oliveira here because maybe it's biased, but I like the guy. I really do like his striking. I feel like he's so creative and he's got so much power. So with that being said, maybe he catches Said Nurmagomedov with something, and I'm sick of seeing Dagestanis win. All respect to him, but you had Usman Nurmagomedov this past weekend, and then you had Islam the weekend before, and I'm going to take the Brazilian this time around. It's about time. They're due, right? So give me Vinicius Oliveira, strike him up, prevent some takedowns with a little jiu-jitsu work, but really just to put the pause on him and make it a difficult, painful fight for Said Nurmagomedov. What do you think?
And if you're watching along with us, remember you can listen to us on Spotify if you like. But if you're watching along with us on YouTube, you'll see actually on Spotify videos on there too. So either place. But you were watching along, you were seeing me go and check out where Saeed Nurmagomedov's loss to Jonathan Martinez was, and of course it happened in Vegas, probably what you would consider a neutral site there. The fact that it's going to be in Riyadh, it means that Vinicius Oliveira is going to have to finish Saeed Nurmagomedov, and that's something I just don't know if I see happening. I could definitely see him getting the better of some exchanges, but better enough to warrant the judges in what is usually a kind of biased area to award it to, a Brazilian over a, kind of Russian Muslim. I would be hesitant against that. And that's why the minus 185 line and the 62% on Tapology is there. So I'm going to ride with those guys. Quick clarification. I don't think Saeed Nurmagomedov even, is a Nurmagomedov of like, Islam Makhachev, who's his brother, but not Nurmagomedov. I don't know how it works, but Saeed apparently is not a Nurmagomedov, no relation. That's crazy to me. But either way, I am going to go with the Russian Muslim, Nurmagomedov to get this one done in Riyadh. If it was in another location, I may pick differently, but that's going to be the biggest factor for me.
Yeah, Magomedov and Nurmagomedov and whatever, all those Magomedovs, they're all pretty common names over there. And I think that we're both on the money talking about how it's a regional fight and how the regional judges will benefit him. And then also odds are it's probably going to wrestle fuck him to a decision, but I'm willing to take Vinicius here. Just that's my pick for the people.
Fun pick.
It's a fun pick, and I think that there's a good chance he gets a win. And if he does, it's going to be a fun, entertaining finish over a Dagestani fighter. Now we're getting to the meat and potatoes of this card. Third fight out from the main event, and that is Sergey Pavlovich versus Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Sergey Pavlovich has gotten two tough fights recently, right? He had his loss against Tom Aspinall, short notice in Madison Square Garden, in which Tom Aspinall lit him up early, put him out. Tough one, but Tom Aspinall is the truth. That was the fight in which he won the interim heavyweight championship belt. And then last time around, he fought Volkov. And, he and Volkov have had some history together, training. And Volkov he's really coming together. He's coming into his own right now. He looks great. He's really using his height finally. And Sergey Pavlovich is a guy that wants to load up and knock you out. And Alexander Volkov is a guy that will teep kick you into oblivion. If that's the type of fighter that you are, he'll stay at range. Jairzinho Rozenstruik tries to be like Alexander Volkov, teep kick you, body kick, stay at range, but he's not nearly as tall. Both of these guys, actually, Sergey Pavlovich has for the first time in a while, I think, out of the Aspinall and Volkov fights, he has a significant 6-inch reach advantage, and he's the taller man here. Sometimes being that stocky, that compact muscle, it makes you look shorter. So he does look shorter in comparison to a lot of other heavyweight fighters that are a little bit lankier, like some of these top guys. Some of the more bottom guys are just chubby little fucks, but Sergey Pavlovich is a ball of muscle, not even a ball of muscle. He's a 6'3" hulking man. And
boulder of muscle.
Yeah, he's a boulder of muscle. That's a great way to put it. And I think he's probably going to touch Jairzinho Rozenstruik early in the first, right on the chin. Jairzinho is going to do what he always does, and his eyes are going to roll back a little bit. And then here comes Sergey Pavlovich to just unload. They used to call him the White Ngannou. And one of Ngannou's best knockouts is against Jairzinho Rozenstruik, where he's absolutely windmilling him into oblivion. And Jairzinho has no choice but to get on his bicycle. When Jairzinho Rozenstruik has power coming at him, he doesn't know how to respond. He just backs up. And there is a cage. Eventually, your back is going to touch the cage. And Sergey Pavlovich is going to expose him there. Trucking Game says, I think Biggie Boy could catch him. Yeah, but Biggie Boy, okay, yes, maybe Sergey Pavlovich could get caught. He has gotten caught against Tom Aspinall, but Jairzinho Rozenstruik is no Tom Aspinall when it comes to the power, the precision, the diversity in his game plan, because he gives you so much to think about. where Sergey Pavlovich is probably worried about a takedown against Tom Aspinall. He's worried about so many different things. Tom Aspinall combined cage time was like under a minute and a half when he fought Sergey Pavlovich, and that was because of submissions, knockouts, everything. He was taking guys down, submitting them in seconds. I don't think that Jairzinho gives him nearly as much to think about. I really seriously think that Sergey Pavlovich is going to touch him early, and Jairzinho Rozenstruik is going to be on his bicycle. And once his back hits that cage, it's going to be boom, 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 sleep. So give me Sergey Pavlovich here. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, I think Jairzinho Rozenstruik's weakness is proven to be against powerful guys who have a decent amount of technique, which Sergey Pavlovich fits that bill perfectly. You know, he's got wins, Jairzinho is. He's got wins over Tai Tuivasa, which is a guy who's powerful, but he just kind of throws and he takes it on the chin, and it's literally like, I'm dying or you're dying. And that's kind of his claim to fame. You know, he's got the knockout over Shamil Gaziev, who was 12-0 at the time, but I think, you know, kind of exposed some weaknesses in his game. I just don't love Jairzinho Rozenstruik against competent, strong opponents that are larger than him. So Sergey Pavlovich, I think for me, you know, similar to what you were saying, Keith, I think he's going to go in there. He's going to land a couple times on Jairzinho Rozenstruik. Jairzinho realized that he's definitely overmatched in the power battle as he's getting up there in age 36. You know, I know you can go a lot longer as a heavyweight, but ultimately I just think Pavlovich justified by the -300. Also, the Russian fighter, you know, is probably going to have a little bit of a slant towards him if it goes to decision, but I don't expect it to go to decision. I think Sergey Pavlovich may have a little bit of a negative recency bias in some people's minds because you think about, the decision loss to Volkov, in which he, you know, was it Volkov who was robbed later? I believe that was like a fairly close fight. And then you have the Tom Aspinall, obviously knocked out there. Tom Aspinall has proven to be a force to be, should be the champion in the heavyweight division. So I'm not, thinking too much into that one. I think Sergey Pavlovich is just far better than his two most recent performances maybe would have you believe. And I think Jairzinho Rozenstruik, we've seen him look bad against guys who know what they're doing. Volkov knocked him out. Jailton Almeida, submission, and was able to just go in there and make him look like he had no idea what he was doing. I'm also very high on Jailton Almeida as well. So, I'm going Sergey Pavlovich. I think he's going to knock him out first, maybe the second round. I don't know that it goes to decision. I think this is one where Sergey goes out there, rights the ship, and puts on a performance. And I think I think the Saudi crowd wants to see knockouts. I think they want to be entertained, and I think they're going to put together fights that are going to adhere to just that. So, I'm going Sergey Pavlovich.
Yeah, if you are at home watching this, don't let recency bias affect you in this fight, because even though those are two losses to two of the top guys in the heavyweight division. And Sergey Pavlovich, it reminds me of the trajectory that Francis Ngannou had, where Francis Ngannou reached the pinnacle, fought Stipe, got finished, and then slowly worked his way back up and then finished Stipe. And Sergey Pavlovich, we can't forget, despite the two recent losses, he is a legitimate contender because he hits with the power of an F-150 driving at 50 miles an hour. The guy will put your lights out if he touches your chin. Speaking of, Sharabullet Magomedov coming off of a double back fist TKO victory over a guy I like a lot, Armen Petrosyan, against Michael Venom Page, who did he lose his last fight to, Michael Venom Page?
Ian Gary, very close.
Right, when Ian Gary wore those purple shorts and decided to wrestle fuck Michael Venom Page for 3 rounds. And MVP still showed a lot of striking prowess against him. I love MVP. He was great in Bellator, great in like the side promotions that he did. Kevin Holland couldn't find him. He told his corner, he's like, yo, I can't touch him. But I have to go with Sharabullet here because Sharabullet is him. I think he's him. And he's just so dynamic with his striking. He's so creative. Who's ever seen a double back fist before that goes bong, bong, knockout? That's some insane shit. Never to be seen again unless he does it a second time. I don't think that he's going to put out MVP, but I think that he's just slightly more creative. He's slightly more versatile. MVP is fun. He does all this hand stuff, right? Like, oh, look up here, and now, oh yeah.
Magomedov, and now a body kick for Sharabullet.
One.
Does it again with the walk-off KO. Okay, look at this.
incredible. Long.
Oh my goodness! I've never seen anything like it. Creativity, boy.
He sees that opening, he turns right on the jaw.
Wow.
Yo, and Armin Petrosian is no joke either. I mean, we've seen him go out there, and he's gone out there with Caio Borralho, and he's had a great fight with him, and a lot of great guys, and he's put out a lot of really solid fighters in the past. So Shara Bullet was doing him dirty too. What it really comes down to is, because this is a lot of unknowns here, right? MVP is new to the UFC, and Shara Bullet, this I believe is his fifth or sixth fight in the UFC, but he hasn't fought anybody of this caliber. And he's such a unique challenge MVP. I am going to go with Shara Bullet here, though, because I think that out of anybody in the UFC, he will be the one that's going to get into range of MVP. He's creative enough. He mixes things up enough where he could even catch MVP. You know, MVP is very good at reading his opponents and picking up on trends and patterns. Shara Bullet does not really show you that, because 1 second he's giving you a push kick, and then all of a sudden it's a question mark kick, and then he's hitting you with a spinning elbow, and there's just so many different things coming at you. And MVP is only going to have so much space to move around and get away from him that eventually the kid is going to throw something at him that he doesn't see coming. I don't think he's going to put him out, but there is a chance. But all you have to do to win the fight is 1 round, dominate. 2nd round, show him enough. 3rd round, just show him enough to not lose it on the cards, right? And there's a chance that happens here, especially with the friendly judging. You know, you give him 1 round where you're really like, okay, he won that round. If another 1 or 2 rounds is questionable, the local judges are going to score it for Shara Bullet. So I'm going with Shara Magomedov, who, you know, again, we were just saying how common of a last name that is. Please like, comment, subscribe. And I'm taking him to get the win over MVP here this week and remain undefeated. What do you think, Tom?
Yeah, no, I think as I was listening to you, I was going back and forth on, I think my brain was telling me to go with Magomedov. My heart was telling me to go with Page because I think he's dynamic. I think he's going to use his length. He's going to be all around the cage. He's going to be moving. Shara's going to be expending a lot of energy. We've seen Shara, kind of run out of gas closer to the end of the round or end of the fight as well. So I was kind of going back and forth, but I think you made a really good point that, hey, it doesn't take a lot. You have Magomedov, land more volume punches or, win the better of an exchange, something that allowed the judges to justify 1 round to him. And then, or if he looks solid in the 1st round and it's clear Magomedov the 1st round, which I think could happen. I think Michael Page sometimes can, allow the fight not necessarily to get away from him, but to come to him a little bit and take, a round, not off, but, just be a little bit tentative as he reads his opponent and as he starts to diagnose their movements. So I think he could probably end up losing this 1st round to Shara Bullet. So that's 1 banked for Shara. Now he's only got to win 1 of the next 2 in order to, be justified on the judges' scorecards. And he doesn't even have to necessarily clearly win 1 of them. So I think because is another instance where if this fight were to happen another place in the world, I might go with Michael Venom Page because he's dynamic. Also, if it was a 5-round fight, I'd go with Michael Venom Page. But because it's 3 rounds, because it's in Saudi Arabia, because Magomedov's going to be somewhat home cook in there, he's also going to be the bigger guy. I think he's going to land probably a more successful 1st round and then maybe a punch or 2 in the 2nd round, and that's going to be enough to give him the fight on decision. I agree with you. I don't think he's going to submit or knock out Venom Page. I think the safest bet here is probably that it goes the distance, right? So I'm going with Shara.
Yeah, I'm super excited for that one. And then another one that I'm excited for, and I'm hoping it's a return to form for Israel Adesanya versus Nasruddin Imavov. First of all, MMA math, Nasruddin Imavov in 2023 lost a horrible decision to Sean Strickland. Sean Strickland pieced him up for 5 rounds. I don't think that Nasruddin won a round in that fight. Maybe he did, but I mean, who cares at this point? That was in 2023. And for me, that's a 5-round unanimous decision victory against Sean Strickland, who then got UD'd who UD'd Israel Adesanya in incredible. I mean, that was just, go back and rewatch that 1st round when he catches him with that 1-2 right across the chin. Sean Strickland, you are awesome. I love you. Nasruddin Imavov has also not fought anybody of the same caliber. of an Israel Adesanya, sure, he fought Jared Cannonier. Jared Cannonier is becoming a one-trick pony. He's becoming a guy that's plodding forward and wants to hit you with that one shot, the killer gorilla, right? He's just not the guy that he was. He's like 40 plus at this point. Sure, he's a dog, but he's just not who he was. A lot of people are looking at Izzy going, well, he's 2-3 over his last 5. That was to Dricus, that was to Sean, that was to Alex Pereira. And we can't forget that Izzy did come back and beat Alex Pereira after the loss. So he's still not totally washed, even when you look at his last 5 fights. Nasruddin Imavov just has not fought anybody of that caliber. He fought Brendan Allen. Brendan Allen is not the striker that Israel Adesanya is. Sure, his grappling is great. Nasruddin Imavov defended his grappling and everything. Doesn't matter because Izzy's not going to grapple him. When it comes to pure striking, Izzy beats him 10 times out of 10. And then when it comes to grappling, yes, he lost his fight against Dricus du Plessis by submission, by getting choked out. But that was after Dricus basically took his fucking head off, had him on the ground, and then went for the smart decision rather than the ground and pound. I just don't see a world in which Nasruddin Imavov takes down Israel Adesanya and submits him. The only way that you're subbing Izzy, because his takedown defense and his submission defense is historically pretty good, the only way that you're doing that to him is if you knock his block off and catch him while he's dazed and confused on the ground. And also, Izzy, I would like to imagine that after losing to 3 of the best middleweights in recent memory, Alex, Strickland, and Dricus, that I hope personally that he will turn things around and he'll be a lot smarter this time. He won't be pointing at the cage as to where he slipped and trying to have a Max Holloway moment and then going back on it. I think that you're just going to see a very much like return to form Israel Adesanya. Reminds me very much of when Anderson Silva was in the twilight of his career, and sure, he lost the belt and everything, but he was still going out there and he was a great gatekeeper. And I think that's what you're going to see against Izzy. And I don't think that Nasruddin Imavov is up to the challenge. Hasn't fought the caliber of guys, doesn't have the skill set, doesn't have it on his feet. And Izzy is tough to grapple. So I'm going with Israel Adesanya to get a solid decision victory, maybe even a late TKO if Nasruddin Imavov becomes overzealous on his feet. What do you think?
Yeah, and I think you spoke to it perfectly that this is going to be what you would call a return to form for Israel Adesanya. 2-3 over his last 5. He's certainly been taken down a peg when it comes to like that overzealous arrogance that he was exhibiting towards the end of his championship reign there. Having the couple losses to Pereira, getting that one back, then losing to Strickland, coming out losing to Dricus after talking a lot of shit. I think ultimately Izzy's going to go out there a little bit more humble than maybe how we've seen him, and I think that's going to translate well to the cage. I think he's going to get back to his roots of, be able to use leg kicks, being able to be the style bender and, meld so many different types of striking approaches. I think Nasruddin Imavov is just not going to have the striking IQ. I think sure he's younger. I don't know if I would say he's faster. He's probably got more power, but Israel likes to say, he's like, listen, it only takes like 12 pounds of power or pressure to knock a person out if you're accurate enough. And now Imavov has the moniker of sniper, but ultimately this is a guy who I think is not going to pressure Israel in the way that Sean Strickland did, that just had him constantly on the back foot. I think Israel's going to be able to be a little bit more dynamic, chew up the leg a little bit, mess with the mobility. You got to remember, Sean Strickland is really good at reacting. He fights all the time. Nobody fights the way Sean Strickland fights, and nobody fights at the amount that Sean Strickland fights. So he's got very good reaction time, and I'm just not so sure that Imavov is of the same caliber of defense as Sean Strickland has proven to be. He wore a mouthpiece and, I think, got hit the least amount out of anyone in the UFC during sparring. So, of course he wears a mouthpiece. It was a, technical mouthpiece if there was any, confusion there. But all that being considered, I think Israel Adesanya is just far more dynamic on his feet. I don't think he's lost his fastball. I think he is going to come out a little bit more composed, knowing like, hey, I don't want to go down 3 losses in a row. So I think he's going to go out there, Dricus fight. Dricus is the guy that's gone out there and tore the block off of Robert Whittaker, that very few people thought he was going to go and do. So I don't want to underestimate that result there. Obviously, the Strickland and then Pereira. This is really good competition, and I don't know that I would take Imavov of any of those fights either. So give me Stylebender, return to form, minus 180. You're looking at Tapology, 77% on Adesanya. I think Adesanya to win this 5-round decision. And hey, who knows? Maybe in that 4th, 5th round, because I don't know how many times Imavov has went all 5 rounds. I don't know if he went 5 rounds against Brendan Allen, but Brendan Allen is definitely not the striker that Israel Adesanya is. This is 3 5-minute rounds, 5 5-minute rounds with Jared Cannonier where he won in the 4th round, 5 5-minute rounds against Roman Dolidze. I'm going to go with Israel Adesanya. If you're going to the 5th round, Roman Dolidze, who does throw aggressively, I still think that, Israel Adesanya, as it gets to the 4th, as it gets to the 5th, I do remember him against who was it where he said, I'm prepared to die, even though it was against Kelvin Gastelum, shorter opponent, but he went out there willing to put it all on the line. I like Israel Adesanya in this one. I think he gets it done, returns to form. I think it's going to be a really exciting main event, no matter which way it goes.
Yeah, and something else I want to be clear about. Yes, it's going to be an exciting main event, but nobody gives a shit about Nasruddin Imavov. Like, Izzy took this fight for a reason. He's getting paid the big bucks to go fight in Saudi Arabia against a guy that he knows he could beat. I think at this stage in his career, Izzy wants to take a fight that he feels very confident about because, it's a tune-up fight, a confidence builder. If he loses to Nasruddin Imavov, I think that's the last we see of Izzy. I don't think he's going to lose to Nasruddin Imavov. I don't even think he's going to let it go to decision or if he does, then I hope it's so clear that the local judges can't score for Imavov. But, yeah, this is a fight. I think that Izzy took this fight for a various number of reasons. And almost at the top of that list is the fact that he knew that he could win it. Imavov is a contender, but dude, do you see Imavov beating Sean Strickland or beating Dricus du Plessis in a fight? No, absolutely not. Nor do I see him beating Izzy this weekend. So for all those reasons, I'm going with Izzy. I think that this is the first time in a while also where I'm like confident in betting on Izzy. You really got to give the guy his roses because he's been in some fucking bad fights. His last 5 fights are against some of the best middleweights we've seen in recent memory. Say what you will about Sean Strickland, but that 1-2 is incredible. Dricus has power, and then we all know about Alex. And so, yeah, I think that Izzy took this fight because he knows that there's a very, very good chance that he wins. And what's his odds here? Minus
180.
Give me that all fucking day. All day, Izzy at minus 180. Get the fuck out of here. I'll take that. And what do the people on Tapology think? Scroll down a little bit.
Like 72%, 77%.
Yeah, and a good chunker by knockout. Slide me in with that. I like that. I like him to get this one done. So with that being said, you want to put a bow on it? Wrap this one up. All right. So for the main card, well, I do want to mention 2 prelim notables that I like a lot. Kind of a toss-up, Terrence McKinney. I do like him, though. I think that he's always a good test for a newer guy to the UFC. And then I like Shamil Gaziev. He only has 1 loss professionally, and that was to, I forget who now off the top of my head, but he's going against Thomas Peterson, who's another newcomer to the UFC. 1 fight in the UFC so far, I believe, and Shamil is not bad. And then for the main card, I'm going with Muhammad Naimov over Khan Offie, Fares Ayam over Mike Davis. Again, I'm going with another dog, Vinicius Oliveira over Said Nurmagomedov, Sergey Pavlovich over Jairzinho Rosenstrike, Shara Magomedov over Michael Page, and Israel Adesanya over Nasruddin Imavov. What do you got?
I think I'm going to be boring and go with all favorites, but, just to mention some of the prelims, I'm going to go with Hamdi Abdelwahab. We didn't talk about it, but obviously he's going to be a little bit more closer to home cooking over Jamal Pogue, so I don't rate too highly and be kind of boring. So I'm going with him. I'm also going to go with Terrence McKinney to right the ship. I think he's on a 2-fight losing streak. I think he's going to go out there and get that one done in an exciting way. I was gonna pick Jasmine but I just don't know if I can pick women's MMA. So with that being said, I'm going with Muhammad Naimov on the main card, going with Faraz Ziam on the main card. That's a close one there. I'll be watching closely. Saeed Nurmagomedov over Vinicius Oliveira. I like him there. Sergey Pavlovich to get it done over Jairzinho Rosenstrike. Shara Magomedov over Michael Venom Page. Quick cameo by chance. And Israel Adesanya over Nasruddin Imavov to get this one done. I don't know if anyone noticed, but I've been dealing with some pretty severe technical difficulties over here. My page frees up every few seconds. I have to go and like click it off. It's been a pain, but hopefully no one noticed. And if you didn't notice, well, if you didn't know, now you know. In the words of Dana White.
I haven't noticed, and I just want to say, Alexander VDB Nasruddin has never been caught in his career. Well, there's a first time for everything. Quite frankly, the people are saying Israel Adesanya is back. That's what they're saying. That's what I'm saying. In a big way, I think he comes back this weekend.